It's time for Come and Talk It with your host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Good day, Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. All right, so today, another body was found. Well, yesterday, another body was found in Ladybird Lake in Austin, Texas. And also, the pardoning of Daniel Perry, governor. The governor of Texas says he's going to give Daniel Perry a pardon. We're going to talk about that. And also a little bit more about that case, some things that actually were released by the judge. Also, Gary Faust, Jamie Hammonds from Dash returned to the show to further discuss the potential of a serial killer after another body was found in the Ladybird Lake. So we'll talk about all that stuff. Man, how many bodies is that? That four? 4 bodies in 10 weeks? Well, we're going to talk about that. Don't slam the door. We're going to talk about that. All right. So, but you know what? I want to talk about this, man, Daniel Perry. So, Sergeant United States Army, Daniel Perry, you know, we've talked about this case on how he was in Austin, Texas, you know, down on 4th Street working for Uber, dropping off a passenger, you know, trying to make some bucks there. He was stationed at Fort Benning. It's now called something else. I don't even know the name of the base they call it now. But it was formerly, Fort Hood, Texas. Formerly Fort Hood, Texas. Cavazos. Fort Cavazos. Cavazos. All right, so they've changed the name. And so working in Austin, Texas, back in July of 2020. And he drops off a passenger. And then, man, there's like protests, there's riots, people in the street, taken to the street. They're upset about, you know, George Floyd. They're letting their voices be heard, let everyone know they're, you know, really upset about police accountability or lack thereof. And so he ends up smack dab in this actual protest. Now, the judge released this week some documents. And here's how you need to make sure you have a legal plan once you decide to carry a firearm. If you're going to carry a gun, have a plan just in case you have to use that firearm. One, you know, you protect yourself. Absolutely. Once you protect yourself, you dial 911, let them know your name, where you're located, you've been a victim of a crime, and you need paramedics, police, or whatever you need, and make sure they understand that. They have that address locked in. They know that, you know, what you're wearing, so they know, you know, that the color of your shirt, the color of your pants, your shoes, whatever, so they know who you are, so the police will know who to contact once they arrive on the scene. Then you hang up the phone, you call your attorney, and then either let your attorney tell you what to say or let your attorney talk to the police over the phone. And this is the best advice I can give you directly after you've been in a situation where you have to use your firearm. Now, here's where Mr. Perry kind of messed up a little bit. He messed up because once the police arrived at the scene, he immediately started talking to the police. He didn't exercise his right to remain silent. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Instead of exercising that right to remain silent, he decides to talk to the police. They get him down to the station. He continues to talk. He says, I don't want to be alone right now. You know, please have someone stay with me. And he continued to talk to them like they're his best friend. They're his counselor, his therapist. They're not your friend. They're not your counselor. They're not your therapist. You need to protect yourself at this point from law enforcement because whatever you say, it is being videotaped. It is being documented. It is going to be on the nightly news, and it will be played in the courtroom over and over and over again. So he decides to talk. That's where he went wrong there. And then he began to show the police officer, demonstrations of what he's doing, how the gun was held by the person that he shot, what he was doing in the vehicle, instead of contact an attorney, getting legal advice, and letting his attorney do the talking for him. Now, once you've done all that, you kind of messed up there, then he gives the police his phone. Oh my God. Are you serious? He actually handed the officer his phone. You gave the police your phone. They have complete access to it. So people are wondering, how did the police get, his messages and, get into his Facebook Messenger or, text messages and things of that nature? Well, because he handed it over to law enforcement. And that is a complete no-no. You need to protect yourself from everyone except your attorney. So once you've done that, it's the cat's out of the box. Now, it's not illegal to be racist, and so it turns out he made some racist comments. Yeah, it turned out that he wanted to actually, possibly, he said, hey, if I run into some protesters, guess what? I'm going to defend myself, and this is how I'm going to do it. Well, you shouldn't do that either. Don't. And so those are some of the things he kind of messed up on. But here we are today. He's now been convicted. Should there have been a reasonable doubt for the jury? I think so, but I'm not an attorney. I'm not in the jury pool. That's not for me to decide. That's for them to decide. And so he was actually convicted. Now, let's jump to the other side. The other side, you have Garrett Foster, who is a prior military Air Force, decides to help his paraplegic girlfriend, wife, whatever it is, and actually participate in the protests. And that's wonderful. That's what you're supposed to do. As a partner, you're living a life with your loved one, you're going to participate in the protests. So he goes downtown, they're taken to the streets, they're marching, letting people know they're upset about George Floyd, the lack of police accountability, and all that stuff. Decides to carry an AK-47, which he's done a number of times. And then, you had two knuckleheads meet each other. Garrett Foster, knucklehead number 1, Daniel Perry, knucklehead number 2. They bumped heads, and guess what? He who draws first wins. And that's what happens. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so here you have, now everyone's coming out and saying that Daniel Perry is this racist individual because he shot someone who's participating in a Black Lives Matter protest. Daniel Perry, Sergeant United States Army, shot another white guy who is not only white, he's whiter than white. He's, what's that boxer? The ginger. What's his name?
Canelo.
No, another one. Anyway, he's whiter than white. He kills this guy. That's not racist. One white guy shoots another white guy. It's not racist. If you want to know someone who's racist, I'll tell you who's racist. Garrett Foster is racist. You have this young man who's carrying an AK-47, whiter than white. He's pushing a black female paraplegic into oncoming traffic. Ladies and gentlemen, that is racist. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Peace, this is Maj Toure. You're listening to Come and Talk It Radio with Michael Cargill.
Your business is going to have technical problems. There's no question about it. Pacific Office Automation is your guide because problem solving is our passion. Every business is unique, no matter how big or how small the problem. From copiers and printers, telephone systems, managed IT, print services, and more, we offer integrated, streamlined office solutions to keep your office humming. With Pacific Office Automation, it's problem solved. Visit pacificoffice.com today to find out more.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so, I want to talk about this serial killer. Is there a serial killer in Austin? I don't know. But you know what? We got a video, and we're going to change gears a little bit. I got a video of an interview that we want you to listen to. Take a listen to this.
All right, so I'm here with Jamie Hammonds from Dash, documenting Austin streets and homeless. You can find him on Twitter at DocumentingATX. We've been sort of covering these bodies that have been cropping up in Lady Bird Lake together. And we're here right near the Longhorn Dam on the north side of Lady Bird Lake, where about 2 hours ago, a body was pulled out of this space right here, right over here. This is where it was, right where this loop is. This like little looping branch. And this is, if you include the body of the guy that was found by Thaddeus over on the other side of the lake, this is the 5th body that has cropped up in the lake this year.
Since February the 5th.
Okay, and if you don't include that, then there's been 4 that are, including this one, 4 in the past 6 weeks.
Yes, past 6 weeks.
All right, so can you let us know what all you found here, because you got here before I did, and you know what's sort of happened.
So there's not a whole lot of information about this. There was, earlier today around 1 o'clock, there was a call to 911. There was a fisherman here that found a body here in the water, called 911, and the police came out here. They had the lake rescue folks put a boat in the water. They pulled the body out. The only thing that we know about it right now is it was a white male, and the body was very decomposed. We do not know names or ages or anything. So they're going to be doing an autopsy this evening on it, so hopefully there'll be some information coming out here pretty soon. But other than that, we had the presser earlier from the police department. They released literally no information other than white male. They did, one of the reporters there did ask the PIO if it could have possibly been a boating accident at some point or some type of an accident, and he would not answer that question. So,
and you also did say that another reporter asked them why they weren't reassuring the public about that.
Right, yeah.
Given that there's so much speculation that there might be a serial killer or multiple murders or occult rituals or what have you.
Yeah, one of the reporters there did ask him about that because they are being very tight-lipped, and he didn't really have a good answer other than, the straight line of, when you go out to parks, go out with friends, be safe, know your surroundings. So I don't know if they're going to actually come out and release any other information or try to reassure the public. I know that online right now, as you know, speculation is way up here,
Right.
and people are freaked out here in Austin. So it's an odd situation with this body here. 4 bodies we had on February the 5th. Jason John. Clifton Axtell was found on March the 5th.
And Clifton Axtell, there was almost no
Yeah.
news coverage or any real information about him.
Yeah, I stumbled across his death. I was going through records on APD's website, ended up stumbling across his death and finding his obituary. It's a long story on that, but he was
confirmed drowned.
Yes,
right?
yeah, he was confirmed drowned.
And the other one was Jonathan Honey.
Yeah, so Clifton Axtell was March the 5th. Jason John was on February the 5th. Clifton Axtell was March 5th. Jonathan Honey was on March 31st, and now we have this guy today.
And those are the 4 that have been found drowned in the water.
In the water. Well, we don't know if this one is drowned as of yet.
But it was found in the water.
It was found in the water, so I would speculate that he was drowned. But hopefully within the next 24 hours, we'll have confirmation of that.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, we'll keep everybody updated as we find more info.
100%.
All right, our call-in number is 512-643-5483. That's 512-643-5483. 512-643-LIVE. Definitely give me a call and tell me what you're thinking. I want to know, do you think there's a serial killer here in Austin? Tell me what your thoughts are on the Daniel Perry trial, the murder trial. Also, Governor Perry's going to pardon him, so we're waiting to see when. I'm sorry, Governor Abbott. What did I say? Perry?
Daniel Perry.
I know Daniel Perry. I said Governor Perry. Man, I'm mixing it all up today. These names, I tell you. Governor Abbott's going to pardon Daniel Perry. So, waiting to see when that's going to happen. It should. Well, I don't know. It gets handed over to the board there, the pardon, that entity, and then they have to send it over to the governor. And see what happens. And some people are thinking, that may not happen, but I disagree. I'm pretty sure that the board of pardons is going to actually send the information with the recommendation over to the governor. The governor's going to do what he wants to do because those people are actually appointed by the governor. So, of course, they're going to do what the governor wants. So that's a no-brainer there. All right, but Gary, let's talk about this body. Another body found at Ladyburg Lake.
Jamie actually has more info on this one than I do, so I'm going to give him the floor.
Yeah, there's really not a whole lot of information at the moment on this one. Like I said, it was this just happened yesterday afternoon. Really, the only thing that we have right now was a badly decomposed body was found about in between 1 and 2 yesterday. There was apparently several 911 calls. From what I gathered, there's some fishermen there. The body was pretty decomposed and caught up there in the brush by the land. They did a water rescue. They were supposed to do the autopsy last night, but I do not think that was actually completed. I think they were going to wait and do it today. So I'm still waiting to hear. Hopefully we'll have some information within the next 24 hours on him. But it has really got Austin up in the air. These bodies just keep getting found, and the more bodies that are found, the odds just keep getting higher and higher.
But it takes a little while for the toxicology report to come back. That takes like at least 3 months.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I think the general time frame is 90 days. You're right.
But aren't most of them coming back inconclusive because they were in the water?
Yeah, I think most of them so far alcohol. I think one guy had some amphetamines in his system, but most of them's just basically been alcohol at this point. But again, they are not testing for drugs like GHB. Any of the date rape drugs. So unless they're specifically testing for that, it will not be found.
Wow. And you would think at this point that would be one of the things they actually check for.
You would think so. I don't know if they can go back. I don't know if they keep those samples, if they can go back after the fact and retest them. You would, if they are actually looking into this like they say they are, I would imagine they're probably doing.
Because everyone's thinking that there's a possibility that someone is actually drugging these people at the bar, right there at the bar, whether it's an employee of the bar or a customer in the bar, maybe meeting someone and dropping something in their drink and then following that person outside,
right,
getting a relationship, building a relationship, conversation with this person, getting them outside, and then being there when they actually succumb to whatever they dropped in their drink, and then do whatever and push them in the lake and kill them, whether it's a fantasy or what.
For sure. And Gary and I have talked to a lot of people in the last few weeks, and pretty much everybody that we talk to has a story about being drugged, or they know somebody personally that's been drugged.
Yeah, there's
down
definitely
Rainey
a
Street.
drugging issue in Austin, whether it's on Rainey or on 6th Street.
Have you been drugged, Gary?
I got drugged on 6th Street like 7 months ago.
What did you experience?
Full blackout.
So
Yeah,
you're
I'm
still
actually
walking
being
around and
completely
stuff,
serious.
but you just don't remember what happened?
Yeah, pretty much. But I took a drug test the next day, and I had benzodiazepines in my system, which
Wow.
is Xanax.
I've read that GHB is totally metabolized by your body 12 hours after taking it. They
Yeah, I've
can't
been told
detect
that this last couple of weeks. I've been told that I've actually been told that even once somebody dies, they might not be able to find it. So I don't know.
Ooh.
I haven't talked to anybody that's a medical professional.
Yeah, if you
but-
get drugged by 10 p.m., then that means if you don't get your sample out by 10 a.m.,
It's
then
gone.
it's completely gone.
Scary to think that.
That's very scary.
Yeah, it's kind of scary to think about the fact that this whole situation is essentially teaching people how to be a killer. If these people are being murdered,
Yeah, and then you look at like the group on Facebook, the Lady Bird Lake serial killer. That side has gone off the rails.
What do you mean?
It's just some of the theories and stories that's coming off of that site. It is, in my opinion, it's a little bit dangerous. You know, the theories that they're floating out.
yeah, I think that there's a lot of people in that group that are it's speculation, and then there are people that it's not like they don't care about what's going on or they don't want to help, but there's a lot of speculation and potentially people fanning the flames of pandemonium
Yes.
and connecting dots that aren't connected. However, in that process, I think things that are true are also being found out. So it's what do you call that? It's
You gotta pick and choose what
Yeah.
information is. It's hard. There's so many members now, and there's so much information.
well, there's
coming out.
67,000 people
Yeah,
being moderated by 10 admins,
10
maybe.
admins. Yeah, about 10 admins.
I think that the admins are probably doing the best job that they can, and I also know that Facebook filters out certain words. So some of the people that are being cut out of there or blocked are not being done. It's not being done by the admins. It's being done by Facebook. You can't post certain things. You got to word things a certain way. Again, that's the big tech censorship once again getting in the way of.
Yeah, and
All right,
there-
I'll come back. I'll call our number is 512-643-5483. That's 512-643-5483. Skip, I see you. I'm going to give you a lot of time there. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Coley on Noir, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Your business is going to have technical problems. There's no question about it. Pacific Office Automation is your guy because problem solving is our passion. Every business is unique, no matter how big or how small the problem. From copiers and printers, telephone systems, managed IT, print services, and more, we offer integrated, streamlined office solutions to keep your office humming. With Pacific Office Automation, it's problem solved. Visit pacificoffice.com.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, "I invoke my right to remain silent," and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily...
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
Hey, all right. So, man, we're talking about the Daniel Perry. We're talking about the Lady Bird Lake. We're talking about the killer. Is there a serial killer? We're also, talking about this Facebook group, the Lady Bird Lake Killer Facebook group. And I think the killer's in that group, let me tell you. But you know what? Let's go to our phone lines. Our phone is 512-643-5483. That's 512-643-5483. Give me a call and tell me what you're thinking. Let's go to Skip Davis. Skip, how you doing there, sir?
Hey, brother, your show is on point as always, and your guests are interesting as always. We need to get you some viewership and some ad money so we can get your message out there. But look, I wanted to mention two things. One, GHB can be detected, according to the National Institute of Health, last thing I read was probably last year, for up to 30 days after it's been administered. So through a hair follicle test. So, but the hair follicle is usually not tested in a autopsy kind of format. But they do have access to vitreous eye fluid, which is a kind of profound way to do a toxicology. I think that there's something funky going on. I was called and been solicited to assist in the search for Jason Johns, and apparently the circumstances of all witnesses who were around during his demise or just before his demise was that he was just a regular guy walking to the house and he wasn't wasted or anything, and somehow he got distracted or waylaid. You tell me, but nobody thinks that he was so wasted that he couldn't make it home by any stretch of imagination. So that's kind of weird.
Right.
Now about Daniel Perry, listen, this is not a good guy with a gun. We just have to acknowledge that. He's not a good guy. He was a guy with a gun, and by his own comments and by his own statements, he made himself out to be a thug with a gun. So for at least 2 months prior to the incident that he had with Garrett, this guy had been fantasizing shooting protesters. And that's okay. Everybody has fantasies. But what's problematic to me is he admitted committing several crimes. Not theoretical crimes, not crimes of imagination. But this guy says he's a serial drunk driver. He admits it. He admits being a serial drunk driver. He says it's what I am. I drive drunk. I had to drive drunk one particular night, he says in these messages, because my designated driver got too drunk. And since I had the most experience and success driving drunk, I took the wheel. And then he brags further and states that he caused an accident in his drunken state that flipped over another person's car. And then he somehow passed the sobriety test and convinced the cops to take the other guy away as being drunk. He writes that. That makes him a criminal. He drives drunk. He is a menace. Why would we give a pass to a menace, number one? Number two, again, within 60 days just before having this incident, he admits to having killed somebody on I-35 in some random, unexplained incident. And he says afterwards, well, I reported to the cops and they let me go. He was convicted of family violence back in 2005 of beating his wife. We want to give this guy a pass? We got to really think. If we're going to give passes, we did not give George Floyd an exoneration, or, when it was discovered that Detective Goins had planted dope on him and others.
All right. Now
to get a conviction.
All right. Then so let me.
So let's be if we're letting guys who have criminal histories get pardons, then I think we need to go back and make sure we're consistent across the board.
All right. So now to the first part of that, he was not drunk on the night that he had to defend himself downtown on Congress. So
I don't know. He didn't submit. There's no evidence that he submitted to field sobriety test or took a blow or anything like that.
So there's no evidence of that. So he was not
innocent until proven guilty.
Right. So he's not. So that's not even called to question any of that stuff, right?
No. Nobody's accusing him of being drunk. That makes it even better.
Wait, but what I don't understand. I mean, sure, everything you said could be true, Skip. Long time no see, by the way.
It is true.
But yeah, sure. But what does that have anything to do with what happened that night? You can't convict somebody based on the past of who they are,
Well,
I don't really have a dog in this race. I don't really feel one way or the other.
Oh no, is that me? Hang on.
All right.
Are you there?
Yeah, we're here. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, the manifestos that these school shooters leave behind, we use that information to help convict them, to show their intent, that there wasn't an accident, that they weren't insane, and those kinds of things. So why can't his text messages be used in the same way?
You say school shooters?
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't a school shooter.
Doesn't matter. The point I'm trying to make is not the class of person,
right, but
the quality of the evidence. The way the evidence is allowed that is used is, if you're the defendant, the evidence is used to try to convict you. And unfortunately, the rules are written in a way that supports the evidence being used to convict you.
If anyone looked like a shooter, would have been Garrett Foster. He looked like, an active shooter with the way he was dressed with the face mask, tactical gear, and the AK-47.
Not to mention there was an interview with him prior where he was actually mentioning possibly shooting people. So based on your logic, it sounds like Garrett Foster is the person who's just as guilty of being a criminal as Daniel Perry is, based on what you're saying.
No, because Garrett Foster doesn't have any priors, didn't write a bunch of emails admitting.
Okay, so what about the school shooters that don't have any priors? What about the school shooters, Skip, that don't have any priors, though? Serious. I'm being serious. I'm not trying to do gotcha. I'm not trying to do that.
That's fine. I don't care if you do gotcha or not. That's my game. Listen, it comes down to this. You have to show intent. There were 12 people, witnesses, and videographers and experts that came to testify. None of them said that this guy Garrett pointed a gun at this gentleman, and that's all fine. But those are 12 witnesses.
Were they?
And they're all going to be protesters. Yeah, they're all going to be Black Lives protesters. So they're definitely going to side with Garrett.
Yeah, his buddies didn't snitch him out. I mean, good for them, I guess.
Hang on. The physical evidence, which is videos and stills, do not show the weapon being raised and other than a high carry with the stock up against his ear with the barrel to the ground. Period. So that doesn't. And don't forget, he gave a confession, and in the confession he said, "I never gave the guy this chance to raise the gun and point it at me." So that all is taken into account for the 12 jurors. There's not 12 woke people. You understand how hard it is to get 12 woke people on a jury? It's almost impossible.
In Austin, Texas? It's almost probable.
Yeah.
Come on.
Hey, listen, guys, I do this for a living. I just tried a case where somebody got 50 years back last month. Back in the fall. It's no game. And these jurors take this stuff seriously. They don't go back there and they huffaw about who loves Lloyd Doggett. They take these charges seriously. And I tried my ass off to save this guy. You can bet. But he got 50 stinking years. And we had a disagreement. There was absence of evidence in his case. There were fingernail clippings from the dead person who they never tested to see if there was DNA under them that would. My guy had 0 wounds on him, nothing. So if somebody gets their head cut off, you'd think that they would check the fingernails of the person who's dead, but they didn't. Absence of evidence.
Now we're looking. We're looking at the. We're looking at the photo. Okay.
My point is this: juries take these charges seriously. There's no such thing as a woke jury. That jury went back there and they considered everything. It took them 17 hours. It took my jury 4 hours, 8 hours maybe. But it took this jury 2 days, 2.5 days to sort that out. And they came to the conclusion that after having heard all the stuff, and remember the stuff that's just been unsealed, they did not hear about the racist comments, about the fantasizing, shooting Black Matters people, about the creating of a defense. Like we've been talking for years on this show about how to create a defense. Make sure you say you're scared for your life. He says all those things on these text messages, and they read back as if it's a plan, a schematic of how to do it. And that's what happened. He didn't take the stand and that's a wise move. Because had he took the stand, he would have to explain why he beat his wife back in 2005. He would have to explain, did he run somebody over, as he says in his text messages back and forth sometime, explain those circumstances.
Skip, can I ask you a question?
Are you a serial drunk driver? Tell us how you caused this wreck and got somebody else arrested. He couldn't afford to have that and then be asked the Furman question. And you guys remember Detective Furman from O.J. Simpson, the great Furman question asked by F. Lee Bailey. So you're not a racist. You never use the N-word. And guess what this guy says in his interview to the police officer that was played back to the jury? If you look at my Facebook social media, there's no racism.
Skip, how come the police decided not to press charges? Why did the Austin police decide not to press charges?
Not to press charges on who?
Daniel Perry.
A particular detective decided not to advance the idea. That's one detective.
Why? But why? That's my question is why would he?
Because Fugit's a racist. Those people of us who work in this business, we know these things.
So do you think it's also possible that the people who came to Garrett Foster's defense also could have had their own ulterior motives? It doesn't just work one way.
The problem is you guys are arguing things that were already presented to a jury, and those 12 august people who were selected for that particular job answered the questions. You guys can't keep asking the questions and then disregarding what the answer was. That's what you're doing. Stop it. Now let's look and see if this guy's entitled to a pardon. Now, a pardon goes to good people.
All right, hold on, Skip. Hold on, we gotta go to a break. We come back, we'll finish this conversation. But keep in mind, Garrett Foster, the redhead, the ginger, white guy, face mask, tactical gear. He was pushing his paraplegic black wife female, his girlfriend, in front of oncoming traffic. Gotta ask who really is the racist here. We come back from the break, we're gonna talk about that. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Folks, this is Doug Man Jones. And I get my gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Your business is going to have technical problems. There's no question about it. Pacific Office Automation is your guy because problem solving is our passion. Every business is unique, no matter how big or how small the problem. From copiers and printers, telephone systems, managed IT, print services, and more, we offer integrated, streamlined office solutions to keep your office humming. With Pacific Office Automation, it's problem solved. Visit Pacific.
He didn't act that way. He never flinched. He went for his pockets, and when he went for his pockets, I thought my heart was going to stop. I mean, Hi, my name's Jerry. The incident we're going to talk about took place in early March of 2017. Started back about 3 years ago. We had a fella in the neighborhood that nobody really knew. We weren't familiar with him, and he was pretty regular about speeding up and down the street. It escalated into more speeding, threats, He chunked some rocks up into the yard, and broke my windshield in my truck, and it escalated from that into death threats. And he was constantly chirping about how he was gonna end it, and he was gonna kill so and so. He was gonna kill me, and it was all chirping. The day of the confrontation, I was leaving the neighborhood and heading to a meeting downtown Fort Worth. It was a beautiful day. I had my windows down. I was in my Suburban. As I was heading out, just about to leave my neighborhood, this guy comes into the neighborhood, sees me coming out, pulls into my lane, causes me to stop, and then he kind of cut at an angle in front of me and jumped out of his truck and ran at the side of my Suburban, saying, "Today's the day you're gonna die, he's gonna end it." He comes over and he's slamming his hands up against the side of my vehicle, my truck. But he's screaming at me, telling me he's gonna kill me, he's gonna end it, this is the day I'm gonna die. He reaches in to try and open up my door. I grabbed my weapon, I put my weapon right at his chest at the window and told him to get back, told him to get the hell back. And he never did. He never moved, he never changed anything. He went for his pockets, shuffling into his pockets, and he pulls out his cell phone. I drove off around and called 911 before I got to the end of my street. Yeah, I've carried a weapon for pretty near 20 years, and I've never had to pull my weapon out. Now, I can tell you that when you do that, it's the emotions are incredible. You feel the flush come through your body because you just pulled a weapon on somebody, you're pointing a gun at somebody, and they don't move. And that's a whole nother, they didn't say, "Whoa, stop," like anybody that you'd think would do that, but he didn't act that way. He never flinched. He went for his pockets, and when he went for his pockets.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so, we're crying over spilt milk here. Daniel Perry has actually been convicted. He's a convicted murderer now. So the question on the table really is, hey, should the governor pardon this guy? That's the question on the table. Skip?
We pardon people who have been wrongly convicted, or we pardon people who are good people who were in unexplained circumstances. But I don't think that this is one of those circumstances where you can say where you can disregard the fact that this person has been engaged in a lot of criminality in a very recent amount of time. And that, if you want to paint this guy as a good guy with a gun, I'm afraid his criminality makes it, he's just as thuggish as any Black Lives Matter thug who was armed.
But we look at the law. We have a castle doctrine. We have a stand your ground law. When it comes to the castle doctrine, if someone enters my vehicle, tries to remove me from my vehicle, tries to kill me while I'm in my vehicle, I can use force, deadly force to stop them. The stand your ground law says anywhere I have a right to be, as long as I'm not committing a crime, something greater than a Class C misdemeanor, and I don't provoke someone, then I can stand my ground. I can defend myself. So under the stand your ground law, the castle doctrine, I think he's okay.
Yeah, I will say the only point here that Skip has that I would say is pertinent is that did this guy instigate something? And when he does talk about his past social media or text messages or whatever, is how do we determine if this guy purposefully drove into that on that right turn? Because that is in my opinion what changes everything.
And let me make it absolutely bluntly clear: the three of us sitting here, the five of us sitting here, is as fun as we are. And as brilliant as we are, we didn't just figure this out. That got presented to the jury. If you look at the jury charge, and I thought I had sent you a copy, Mark, I don't remember if you got it there handy. But if you look at the jury charge, it's a roadmap to how to figure out the case. And it states in the very beginning, and I'll be quick so we can have more comments, it says, did this guy commit murder by the definition of murder? And the definition of murder is pretty simple. Then once you get through the definition of murder, is that murder justified by self-defense and the use of lethal force? And then it explains what the castle doctrine is and where it applies and how it applies. And then the question becomes, except in cases of provocation, this, blah, 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 blah. There's 3 or 4 exceptions. So those are all listed on the jury charge. So they went through this process that you're going through now, and they went through it mechanically, and they heard all the evidence, and they came away from hearing all the evidence with a particular view of things, and they debated it for 17 hours, and in the end, they spat out.
And someone went home and researched some stuff on their own and brought it back.
You know, that doesn't necessarily nullify things, but it certainly is a violation of the judge's instructions, which could result in a trial being reversed at appeal, but not in the pardon. It's extraordinary. We've never had a pardon on something like that, not in Texas.
Okay, all right.
So there are tools available. If you want to undermine the rule of law in Texas, then just make it so. Just go ahead and pardon a Black Lives Matter, a murder of a Black Lives Matter ally. And if you don't think that that's going to cause more trouble again, especially in light of all of the things that have been unsealed, and the things that I pointed to that have been unsealed have not been pounced upon on the media, because the media doesn't recognize that in trial, calling somebody an N-word ain't that bad necessarily. But if you get painted with the stink of career criminal, walking crime spree, that's the guy we look at and we say, yeah, we can't have him in society. Give him 20 instead of 5. And we're going to give him a pardon.
Okay. I hear you, Skip.
And so I urge them to let the appeals process work, and let's see where we wind up after the errors that they're accusing the jurors have engaged in, how they get sorted out. But as for pardon, it makes it pretty hard for me to look at this guy and think that there's not going to be a whole bunch of protests.
Oh, it's going to be protests.
Yeah, probably more than just protests. It might even be riot.
We might as well get ready for it, plan for it. You know, get your security ready, do what you need to do, because it's going to happen.
You think Abbott's actually going to do it?
I think Abbott's going to pardon this guy, and I think there's going to be protests and riots.
So too. And
he said it. He has to do it. He said it. He has to do it.
But he said it. He said it, and he's intelligent. He's a good politician. But he's been doing politics for a long time. He said that he'll do it upon the recommendation of the Board of Pardons and Paroles. Now they're all appointees.
Yeah, he put a little, and they're all appointees, and he appointed them, so they're going to do what he really wants. So
and
if they don't do it, that means he didn't want it.
And that, I think, is what Skip's getting at, right?
That's his
That's
out.
the caveat.
That's his out.
That's right. So he's put the investigation now in somebody else's hands. He didn't watch a day of trial. There's not one DPS staffer that went over there and watched a minute of trial. Nobody from his office went over there and watched that trial. So that reaction of his is simply in reaction to Tucker Carlson. Granted, that's all great and stuff. Now, is he going to really do it? Well, he said, well, let's see what the Board of Pardons and Parole says. You send me a yes, I'll sign it right away. That's what it meant.
If he gets he gets a new trial. If he gets kicked back on appeal.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
If he gets kicked back on appeal or he gets a new trial, then that kind of saves face a little bit also.
You know, there's a lot of ways to save face, and one is like Rick Perry says, or I'm sorry, George W. Bush said. Well, you had all your fair appeals. And that's the point. Let the process work. That's why the process is there. It was a bad scene all the way around, but they elected to have 12 jurors hear it, and those people heard it, and they came away with a different point of view than everybody who kind of turned on the media at 6 o'clock news to see how the day went.
Yeah, so
they sat through it all.
So we'll see. And you know, he's been judged by a jury of his peers. We'll see how the board of pardons, how they do this, because they've been appointed by the governor. So they're going to do what the governor wants, and so we'll see how that comes out. But like I said, I think the governor can save face, because it all depends on the appeal, which direction that goes, and it also depends on if there's a new trial.
Yeah, and so does Abbott win? Was that his goal? Well, he won the internet for a day,
right?
And he probably won the internet for a week, or until such time that the board comes back up with their report. And I suspect that when they get lobbied as heavily as I suspect they're going to get lobbied, and they're going to get all this same stuff back, the unsealed comments that his text messages, they're going to have a hard time because they don't like to let people out on parole who have a criminal background. If you have no criminal background, you're on your first charge in prison, they'll let you out on parole. You got a couple, and they're not too keen on that. This guy's got a family violence history, and he admits to driving drunk regularly.
Yeah.
All the time in his comments.
But
So
he wasn't drunk. But he wasn't drunk the night of.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you're not, a menace to society to whom somebody should be extended a great and extraordinary privilege.
Yeah.
A pardon from a murder trial.
But a smart person's going to look through that and say, well, he wasn't drunk the day of, so that didn't have anything to do with anything. I got to judge this guy on what he was doing the night of.
We're not there to judge his guilt any further.
No, that's
already
correct.
been established.
That's correct.
You cannot be pardoned unless you've been found guilty.
Now, Timothy says the unsealing information seals the deal for a win for the prosecution. I disagree, Timothy. What I think is the unsealing of all this information by the court is going to guarantee a change of venue if there's a new trial.
I don't know about that. Why do you think that, Mike?
Oh, man, they're dirty. Man, the way the media is going, they're dragging him through the mud right now. They're talking about these racist comments, and he's racist. And racism has nothing to do with this because he was, as a white guy, shot another white guy. I don't see what the racism has anything to do with anything.
Except for it's Black Lives Matter allies that he's railing against.
99% of them were white. I don't see what the issue is.
Especially that night.
Black Lives Matter's allies.
Why wouldn't he have shot the black girl in the wheelchair then if he was so racist?
Right. The one that Garrett Foster was pushing in front of the car.
And that's why the jury didn't get to hear that stuff. The judge omitted that from the jury because they didn't want the jury to be distracted from the question at hand, which was this murder and was self-defense available?
Right. And just keep in mind, time and time after again, Garrett Foster was using his girlfriend, the black female, as a stop sign for oncoming traffic. He literally pushed her in front of the vehicles. He did this several times on several days. I got pictures of him in front of the Austin Police Department pushing his girlfriend in front of a vehicle. I'm going to show that picture here in a second. That was caught from the cameras at the Austin Police Department and also the cameras that the city of Austin uses.
Well, Mike, why didn't you go down to testify for the fellow?
Nah, that's not my job. Testify. I'm not his attorney.
But you had evidence that proves that he was innocent, or that the other guy engaged in
that didn't have anything. That didn't have anything to do with the day of. That had nothing to do with the moment in time when he was justified and defending himself. That's Daniel Perry.
If you would have testified to show that it was Garrett Foster who's engaged in practices of intimidation and provocation.
Intimidation, racism, pushing a black female in front of oncoming traffic. Are you serious? Boy, we pointing that racism point in the wrong direction.
That's a civil rights violation right there.
All right, we come back from the break. We'll talk about this and more. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hi, this is Stephen Williford, the Barefoot Defender. I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Your business is going to have technical problems. There's no question about it. Pacific Office Automation is your guide because problem solving is our passion. Every business is unique, no matter how big or how small the problem. From copiers and printers, telephone systems, managed IT, print services, and more, we offer integrated, streamlined office solutions to keep your office humming. With Pacific Office Automation, it's problem solved. Visit pacificoffice.com today to find out more.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, They might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you because you're not being interrogated. You're just starting to spout off. This is why it's imperative that you know your rights and you shouldn't rely on the police to read them to you. Affirmatively invoke your rights. Say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent and my right to my attorney. Once you do that, the police legally shouldn't continue questioning you without your attorney present. But remember, there's a second part to this equation. After invoking your rights, you must exercise those rights. That means you have to keep your mouth closed. Protect yourself. Don't let the legal system take advantage of you after an incident. And Law Shield members, if you've been involved in a self-defense incident, remember to call the emergency hotline and speak with your independent program attorney.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're going to change gears just a little bit. We're going to talk about this serial killer possibility. What's going on here in Austin? People being drugged and pushed into the lake and drowned downtown Austin, Texas. You know, what's happening around Lady Bird Lake? There's a Facebook group. Over 60,000 people are on this Facebook group. They're going back and forth. They're pointing fingers at people. They're kicking people off the group like crazy. Man, is the killer in the group? I don't know. We're going to find out. We're getting down to the bottom of this. We're the ones that broke this story, and we're going to push this story all the way to the end until we figure out what's going on. All right, so Gary.
All right, so we have a map that we're going to pull up here. It shows the locations of every one of the 4 bodies that have been found in the lake, pulled from Lady Bird Lake in 2023. There's a 5th body that we've added to the list as well that was not in the water. It was found next to the water. And we also have some pictures here of the victims just to show you the resemblance that each of these that each of the victims has to each other. And this timeline goes back to 2019. Is that correct, Jamie? 2018 with Martin Gutierrez, correct?
Yes.
The end of 2018? Okay, so with that said, I will turn this over to Jamie to talk about each individual victim, and then after that, we can show the video of the interviews I did over on Rainey. I actually went down there and I asked about 40 or 50 people if they actually think there's a serial killer in Austin, Texas.
All right, so we're looking at this map, Jamie, so
so
explain it to me.
So you see, basically what it is each person that was found in this lake since 2018, starting off with Martin Gutierrez. Gary and I just interviewed his sister-in-law just a few days ago. Martin went missing from Rainey Street. He was at a bar called Alibi His family says that he was acting extremely odd, very out of character, and he went missing. They have no clue what happened to him, and they found him several days later in the lake. From there, we're looking at the unidentified body. That was Thaddeus Quest. That's down there at the southeast portion of the lake. That is the body that Thad had found back on January the 4th.
That is Quest. Okay, so where's that going to be?
That is down at the southeastern portion.
It's across from Oracle.
Right.
Pleasant Valley.
Oh, that far down.
Which is
wow.
where
Okay.
and that guy, that was the 5th body that we're not sure if it's connected because it wasn't actually wet or in the water, according to Thaddeus's interview.
Literally directly across from where they found the body yesterday. We could see the spot where Thad found that body
Oh, wow.
from where we were standing yesterday. So literally right across the lake. And then it goes into Jason John was found on February the 5th, if my memory serves me right. Again, he was on Rainy Street, went missing from there, and was in the water for a few days before he was found. The one that is kind of an unknown as well is Clifton Axtell. He went missing and was found on March the 5th. That particular death has not been reported on by the media in this town at all. Complete silence.
So,
I found a little blurb about it, but with no name.
So Jamie essentially found this on his own, and we're now breaking this on the show.
Yeah.
Just like we basically broke this whole thing, which people have been talking about for a long time, but media won't touch it.
They're not.
And the police are not transparent, and they're not reassuring people. Like you said in that interview earlier, you said the police are, if they were so positive these weren't accidents, they would be saying that to prevent pandemonium.
Yeah, it's odd how they are literally, when asked yesterday specifically about why aren't you covering this? Why aren't you, why are you not putting out any information? And they went into their standard answer of, go out with friends, watch your surroundings. And we, at that same point, when he held that press conference, it was literally about 3 hours after the body was found, and they are already going into the line of not one thing suspicious was found with this.
I think they may have some DNA of a suspect.
They could very well. I think
they're not telling us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the reason that they're not talking about it is because Rainy Street is the entertainment area. That's a lot of money in that particular spot, and they're not wanting to freak anybody out.
It could also be something as simple as they have their own investigation, and they don't want people derailing it, which would be people probably like us. But
What are we breaking today? What's that no one's talked about?
Clifton Axtell.
No, there was a body that was found yesterday that we were just we were talking about.
Yeah.
So this body was found about 2 miles from Rainy, and it was severely decomposed.
Yep.
That is
downstream, right?
Which is, I think, why it was so far downstream. And that would make sense if the body did go in the
Been
Rainy
there quite a
area.
while.
Yeah, it'd been there a while, and it would take a little while to make it that far. And here's the other thing: where that
person could have been killed before this previous one.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, and where that body was found, it was making its way down the lake. That body was very decomposed, and if you look at where the body was found, there's so much foot traffic and so many fishermen in that area, it would be impossible for that to go unnoticed for any length of time. So there was several 911 calls about it yesterday. That body had to have gotten there yesterday. It had to have came down the river and just gotten to a spot where people
and it
could
got
actually
stuck.
see it. Exactly. Right. So like I said, would be impossible in that spot. While we were there, there was 4 or 5 fishermen,
and we just had a lot of rain.
So
that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Right. So it could be from the Rainy Street area. So speaking
of
which,
Timothy, I tell you, you're smart, Timothy.
So speaking of which, we've got a video of the interviews we did. It's on a little bit of a lighter note because we went down to Rainy and asked people if they're scared or if they think there really is a serial killer. And we did this at like 10 p.m. So some of these people are a little bit buzzed or intoxicated, but let's go ahead and roll that.
No, you know what? Before we roll that, let me tell you what we should do. Timothy says they need to put the halos in that area. No,
or trail cams.
Let's put some game cameras in that area.
Yeah,
we need to go down there and put some game cameras down there and drop.
And I first heard that they said that they should put trail cameras down there in that Facebook group. So yeah, there's definitely some chaotic conspiracy theories in that Facebook group. Smiley face killer, occult killers, and this and that. But there's also people in there that really do have some very good ideas, really thought out ideas.
All right, let's go ahead and roll this clip.
On Rainy Street in Austin.
I can't really confirm or deny it.
You are asking the one person who doesn't know.
I don't think so.
Maybe.
I think there is.
Yes.
Yes.
Me and my dog are trying to eat. I don't really give a about a serial killer.
100%. I don't know. Probably not.
I don't like this negative attitude.
I don't think there is. I think it's just an urban legend.
I've heard all about that serial killer. You know what the I gotta say? I'm from Baltimore, baby. I dare that serial killer to try me.
I would say no. There's not a serial killer there. I think someone's dumbass enough to get drunk enough to pass out in the goddamn lake. You know what? Hey, that sucks. But guess what? No. There's no homos.
All right, thanks, brother. I appreciate you, man. What do you think's happening?
I think people are just getting really drunk and just passing out in places they shouldn't be.
Possibly just really drunk people that are
falling into the river.
Unless you're really drunk or, on some type of drugs, how do you let somebody lure you to the water and then you drown?
They're saying that these guys are getting drugged.
Oh, well, then that's unfortunate.
You would think maybe their watch would be gone, their stuff would be stolen, their credit cards would be used, maybe.
Honestly, the first thing I think is that they would be raped.
Maybe women. I don't know about men as much.
What if the killer's a woman, dude?
That's possible.
Come on, man.
It's possible. I mean, it's 2023, baby.
It's 2023. There's female serial killers. Who do you think it is? Like, what kind of person do you think it is?
Somebody with really bad intentions.
You think it's a woman?
It could be.
You think it's a gay woman?
You're not allowed to say that. It's 2023. You're going to get canceled.
All right. Is it a woman? Is it a man? What's the deal here?
It's a guy.
You think it's a gay dude?
Yeah.
I think it's a gay dude, too. What do you think?
The same.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was like some type of vengeful, lady. She got raped or something.
It's a team.
It's a team.
It's a team of both of them. The shorty pulls them back to the crib. The dude steps out the closet. It's like that.
Are you scared?
No. I always have a blade on me just because I work here. I cut a lot of boxes.
Are you not worried that this guy's going to catch on to you and he's going to follow you around and try to kill you and your family?
Dude, no, I'm not. I mean,
should be, dude. Are you scared? Are you scared of this?
Well, I'm not a male.
Oh, so you don't care about men? Okay.
Supposedly it's, dangerous to come to Rainy Street now because there's things happen.
Somebody's allegedly drowning people in the lake. That's the guy we should follow. Hey! What a from a female mind. Why would someone be killing these guys?
Maybe he's bored? I don't know.
Based on NCIS, I would say that he has a problem.
You think he's gay?
It could be.
What is the motive of the killer, if there's a killer?
It's got to be about money. It's always about money. It's an inside job.
Are you the serial killer?
I could be.
I heard that it was like mixed race, you know what I mean? He was targeting interracial males.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to cross-reference that with the chart I got going on. Okay, what's their motive?
just kill them, bro, I guess.
They're just pure evil.
They just absolutely kill.
Do you think it's a man or a woman?
Honestly, I couldn't answer that question because I have no idea.
Do you think that the killer is targeting certain people?
No idea.
Why are the only people that are dying are brunettes with brown eyes?
Where'd you hear that?
Every victim that's drowned is brunette with brown eyes.
I didn't even know that.
You think it's overblown?
Who knows?
Okay. Not a lot of strong opinions, but very based in facts. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, it's all good, bro. This is Austin.
Yeah, it's weird, dude. Sounds to me like the police kind of are leaving some details out. I don't really trust the police, honestly.
What Austin is trying to do as a growing community, you know? You think they need that?
So one of my buddies who's in journalism as well mentioned that he thought that they would make up a story like a serial killer to lower the prices of the houses around here, to buy up the rest of the houses on Rainy Street so they can make apartment developments. How about that?
I mean, that's interesting, but I mean, anything's possible, right? I know there are a few people that hold out down here, you know?
There's one at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, well, dude, I appreciate your help, brother. I appreciate you, man. You got $1. Kind of look like the demographic that he's killing.
Yeah? You kind of do too.
I know. That's why I'm a little bit paranoid. Dude.
We are both brother. We are both
That's not how that works. Texas is a one-way consent state. Hey, right over here, right over here, right over here. Get that. So we're looking for a killer here in Austin, and all we found is a street brawl. Pretty common for Austin, unfortunately. Where'd the cop go? All right, let's get out of here.
All right. No. And this is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Peace, this is Maj Toure. You're listening to Come and Talk It Radio with Michael Cargill.
Your business is going to have technical problems. There's no question about it. Pacific Office Automation is your guide because problem solving is our passion. Every business is unique, no matter how big or how small the problem. From copiers and printers, telephone systems, managed IT, print services, and more, we offer integrated, streamlined office solutions to keep your office humming. With Pacific Office Automation, it's problem solved. Visit pacificoffice.com today to find.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was only discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, we're going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so, man, I tell you, that was intense. A lot of stuff going on downtown on Rainey Street there. Fights and, and a lot of opinions there.
Yeah. So, you know, I go down there. I like to have a good time when I'm talking to these people, get them loosened up because we don't want to be too serious. Otherwise, nobody's going to want to talk to me about it because it's obviously a dark topic and it can be kind of, you know, depressing to talk about. But so, you know, I go down there, have a drink or two and talk to these people. But in all seriousness, we did talk to probably 40 people. And the overall consensus was that I would say more than half the people think that these are just drunk men going to, you know, pee or being so drunk they fall into the lake. And then there are a lot of people who do think that there is a serial killer for whatever reason. A lot of the people thought that it was either a woman or a gay guy going after a specific type of male, which, Casey, if you put up the pictures of the victims on screen, we can see that they are all basically men that are more tan complected, brown hair, brown eyes. Some of them actually look really similar. Martin Gutierrez and Christian Pugh
look alike.
Really similar. They
Yes.
look almost like they could be related.
Yep.
But for the most part, I think people think it's just these are drunken mistakes. I'm actually curious if I went back down there now after they found another body, what people would say.
Yeah. Now, what about this? You said there was another body that was found closer to, was it not Google, but somebody else?
Oracle?
Oracle, yeah.
That was the one
Oracle.
Thaddeus where we interviewed Thaddeus. The interview we did on last
And
week's
is
show.
that's going to be the January the 4th, 2023?
Yes.
Unidentified? Okay,
but we
got
don't know if that's we don't even know who that is.
Right.
And he
This is
wasn't in the
unidentified.
water. So
Yeah, and the only other one that's an unknown right now is Clifton Axtell. I found that guy on accident, that death, just by searching through APD records, and then found his obituary. He was definitely missing from Rainey Street and found dead in Lady Bird on March the 5th of this year. And like I said, media is not talking about it. There's no information on that death.
Hey,
as of
What
right
about what about Christian Pugh?
he was
Where was
back
he
in
found?
2018.
Oh,
He
where-
went missing from Rainey Street. He was found
Alive.
But
3
where?
days later in
Where?
rough shape, according to the news.
But where?
On Congress and Lady Bird. He was in the bushes right there by Congress.
Yeah, it was Lady Bird. It's related,
Wow.
theoretically.
Yeah. You guys need to put a spot on the map for him too.
Yeah, you know, we didn't do that because I'm waiting to hear from him, to talk to him, because I reached out to him and he was on a podcast called the Honeydew something
Yeah.
podcast with Ryan
Honeydew.
Sickler. What?
Yeah, it was on Honeydew.
Oh, yeah. And he said he seemed like jovial about it. Now, this was a while back, a few months ago, but his parents told Jamie that he was traumatized by this and didn't want to talk to media, but then he's doing a podcast appearance. So
Yeah, it was I think he was going to see Tom Segura.
He was, yeah,
when he
yeah.
was talking about that.
So-
It seems like his family or someone's trying to cover for him.
Exactly.
That's what we were thinking.
And or protect him in some capacity because they don't think he should be talking about it, even if he disagrees. But my point is, I didn't put him on the map yet because I'm waiting to hear from him. And you know, like, what if there's like another part of the story where he's like, yeah, I took some drugs and blacked out and went on this crazy bender. So I don't want to jump to conclusions here. And you know, we obviously do speculate, but we do try to keep the speculation to somewhat of a minimum.
And it's hard because there is a massive amount of information when you cover all these deaths. It is
Right.
you can get in the weeds real quick with it.
Right. And there is a Facebook group called the Lady Bird Lake Killer. And you can go join it.
If you can get in.
If you can get in, yeah. I think Jamie was kicked out automatically because he maybe possibly said a word, like a hot word you're not supposed to say. You're not really allowed to say killer or a dead body and stuff like that. There's weird tag words. Yeah, weird rules. I don't think they handpicked him to remove him because one of them actually mentioned him in a post in a positive way. So, but the point that I want to say about the Facebook group is, like Michael said, that the killer is probably in that group if this really is a serial killer or possibly isolated murderers. But the group does have some good information in there and people that have brought up good points, like the trail cams. That's where I heard that. So if you do want info, it's a place that is at least a source, not a database per se, but it is a source of information.
You just got to be careful. Got to be real careful in there because, again, there's so much information. You don't know really what's real and what's not. So gotta be careful.
man. What do you think about all this stuff, Zach?
Oh, well, I mean, I think Gary's onto something.
Because you
We
fit in
gotta
that
keep going down that
you
rabbit
fit in
hole.
that category. You should be. You
So does Gary, and he's out there.
Yeah. Well,
and someone, you know what? Someone actually asked this question. Has any of the bodies been found with any rectal damage from rape?
no, I don't think there have been.
Not
And
to my
if there
knowledge.
has been, then the police haven't talked about it. But that was the first thing I thought too. Is like, what would be this guy's motive? He's just, usually serial killers sexually torture or do something that is, disgusting and rape, sexual assault, something like that.
All right, well, think about it. What if they did come out and say, "Oh, there's damage around the anus. There might be a serial killer." What would happen if APD
Oh, it would be
said
a
that?
freak out.
It'd be pandemonium.
Right, but
It'd be
that's
chaos.
What you think that they shouldn't be honest and transparent with the people? You think the people
I
can't
don't
handle
think
it?
they shouldn't be.
Because now there's just a bunch of speculation and some people are just making stuff up. But this has been a rumor in Austin for like, dude,
For a
I
while.
had a buddy tell me that he's been following these deaths for 5 years. 5 years.
Yep.
And this is a buddy of mine that is, I know him relatively well. He's not like he's not a conspiracy theorist by any means, but he's interested in this specifically. But he works in service and he works in the bars. And he's been hearing these stories for 5 years.
You can actually
people have been getting drugged.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can take these deaths all the way back to 2008. I mean,
And one thing about men are embarrassed. They're afraid to actually come out and tell you something happened to them.
Yeah.
Men will not do that. They're not going to let you know that someone maybe sexually assaulted them or something happened. They're going to be afraid to mention those things.
For sure. Yeah, the only going back to the injuries on the body, the only confirmed injury to a body that I know of was Martin Gutierrez. He had blunt force trauma on the back of his head.
Back right, occipital.
Occipital lobe.
Right near where the head meets the neck.
Yeah, he had an actual bruise on his brain.
Who is this again?
Martin Gutierrez, 2018. We did talk to his sister-in-law.
Yes, sister-in-law.
And she had some stuff to say.
That definitely contradicts what the police officer said. The police
This
said
was
that there's
one guy that had this damage. This year, none of the bodies have
Yeah.
had damage, allegedly. And we don't even know. We still don't have the death certificate or any of the report from the body that Thaddeus found. So there's a lot of unanswered questions here, and the police are definitely they have info that the public doesn't know about. Jamie's FOIA'd about 10,000 different things. I've talked to a number of people when I was down there yesterday. I talked to a handful of people that were there, and nobody really has any. The only person that had any info that was really different was Thaddeus, and he said that there was a guy there that was really interested in what was going on. So maybe potentially somebody's murdering people and throwing them in the lake, so it looks like they drowned, and throwing people off the trail.
All right, so we're going to stay on this case. We're going to talk about this later on down the road. We're going to continue to research this. Sorry we didn't get to you on the phone lines. Hope we'll get to you next time. As always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and you buy yourself a gun. You've been listening to Come and Talking with Michael Cargill.